The Aral Sea, once a vast and vibrant oasis in the heart of Central Asia, was one of the world's largest inland bodies of water, spanning an area of 68,000 square kilometers. It was so large that it influenced the local climate, provided a thriving fishery, and supported millions of people in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. But today, the Aral Sea stands as one of the most shocking examples of environmental destruction caused by human hands. A sea that has almost entirely vanished from the map, leaving behind a desolate wasteland where life once thrived. To understand the full extent of this disaster, we must go back to the early 20th century when the Aral Sea was still a shimmering blue jewel in the midst of the Central Asian desert. The sea was fed by two major rivers, the Amu Darya and the Sir Darya, which brought fresh water from the distant mountains of Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. These rivers sustained the Aral Sea for millennia, creating a delicate balance between inflow and evaporation. The region around the Aral Sea became a hub of activity, with bustling fishing villages, thriving agriculture, and a unique culture that depended on the life-giving waters of the lake. However, this balance was shattered in the 1960s when the Soviet Union, under the leadership of Nikita Khrushchev, embarked on an ambitious project to transform the Central Asian desert into a vast cotton empire. The Soviet government saw the potential of cotton, often referred to as white gold, to boost the economy and secure the USSR's position as a leading global power. The idea was simple: divert water from the Amu Darya and Sir Darya rivers to irrigate the arid lands of Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Kazakhstan, turning them into lush cotton fields. What seemed like a brilliant plan on paper quickly turned into a nightmare. The Soviet engineers constructed a series of poorly designed and inefficient canals that leaked massive amounts of water. It is estimated that up to 75% of the water diverted from the rivers was lost to seepage and evaporation before it even reached the fields. Despite these inefficiencies, the cotton fields flourished, and Uzbekistan became one of the world's largest cotton producers. But the cost of this agricultural success was the slow, agonizing death of the Aral Sea. As the flow of water into the Aral Sea dwindled, the lake began to shrink. In the 1960s, the Aral Sea was a vibrant ecosystem, supporting over 20 species of fish and a thriving fishing industry that provided employment to over 40,000 people. The port cities of Aralsk and Minask were bustling centers of trade and commerce, with fleets of fishing boats bringing in thousands of tons of fish each year. But as the water levels dropped, the salinity of the lake began to rise, eventually reaching levels that were lethal to most aquatic life. By the 1980s, the fish stocks had collapsed, and the once thriving fishing industry was decimated. The boats that had once dotted the sea were left stranded on dry land, rusting away in the scorching sun. The environmental consequences of the shrinking Aral Sea were catastrophic. As the water receded, it left behind a vast, barren desert known as the Aralkum. This new desert, covering thousands of square kilometers, was composed of salty, toxic sand mixed with chemical residues from pesticides and fertilizers that had washed into the lake over decades. The winds that swept across the region picked up this toxic dust, carrying it for hundreds of kilometers and spreading it over towns, fields, and rivers. The dust storms caused respiratory problems, cancers, and other serious health issues among the local population, turning what was once a prosperous region into a public health disaster zone. The disappearance of the Aral Sea also had profound impacts on the local climate. The lake had once acted as a natural moderator, cooling the summers and warming the winters in the surrounding areas. Without it, the climate became more extreme, with scorching summers and bitterly cold winters, further exacerbating the difficulties faced by the people living in the region. The loss of the sea also led to the collapse of agriculture in many areas, as the lack of fresh water and the encroaching desert made farming nearly impossible. In response to this unfolding catastrophe, the international community and the governments of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan have made various attempts to mitigate the damage and restore some of what was lost. One of the most significant efforts has been the construction of the Cockerel Dam in 2005, which aimed to revive the northern part of the Aral Sea. The dam has been somewhat successful, raising water levels in the North Aral Sea and allowing some fish species to return. However, the southern part of the Aral Sea continues to shrink and degrade, with little hope of recovery. The Aral Sea disaster serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of short-sighted environmental management and the devastating consequences of prioritizing economic gain over ecological sustainability. It is a cautionary tale that highlights the interconnectedness of natural systems and the profound impacts that human activities can have on the planet. As we face the challenges of climate change, water scarcity, and environmental degradation in the 21st century, the story of the Aral Sea offers important lessons on the need for careful stewardship of our natural resources and the importance of balancing human needs with the health of our planet. Today, the once mighty Aral Sea is a shadow of its former self, with only a fraction of its original size remaining. The fishing villages that once thrived on its shores are now ghost towns, and the people who lived off the sea have been forced to adapt to a harsh new reality. The Aral Sea may never fully recover, but its story continues to be told as a symbol of what can happen when humanity loses sight of the delicate balance that sustains life on Earth.